Om Sai Ram, everyone. Thank you for being here. Gautam, thank you for your time as always.
My pleasure, Nick.
So, Gautam, today I wanted to talk to you about receptivity
Mhm.
and how receptive devotees can be to Baba's teaching. This particular story in chapter 27 that I would refer to is the story of the Ramdasi,
Mhm.
because Baba would often say that numerous people would come to Baba, but they had their ghada upside vessel. The vessel was put upside down,
Right.
and as a result, they would never absorb the teaching.
Mhm.
So I felt this may be an excellent pointer which you could speak about.
Yes, and I think the chapter you are referring to is, where somebody, the Ramdasi, is tested to see if the teaching has impacted his daily living. You see, uh, and that is the true acid test. Are we living the teachings of a master, or is it just a convenience-based model we have adopted, and with no direct impact on our daily living?
In this particular instance, Gautam, it was quite sharp. I thought it's a starking uh, contrast, because here he was sitting in front of Baba reading some of the most sacred texts, and at a mere thing of a pothi, he picked up a quarrel with Shama. And in Baba's own words, if you give me a minute, I will read them out. Baba said to him, he said, "You are straining your every nerve to admonish him. Why be so sad without a reason to make an exhibition of your temper to the whole world? How can you be so quarrelsome? You read the Pothis all the time, and yet your heart is still impure. Every day you read Ramayan, you repeat the Sahasranam, but you have not given up the wild willfulness, and yet you call yourself a Ramdasi. What kind of a Ramdasi are you? You ought to be detached and desireless in every sense of the word. But here you are, not being able to give up your attachment to that pothi. What can one say of this behavior of yours?"
Right.
Sharp
Actually,
words.
yeah, very sharp words and to the point. You see it because, Nick, to put it in context, we have a situation here where this man has been reading the holy books for a very long time, and then he finds that someone has got hold of the holy book, and his temper becomes like a volcano which has erupted. You
Hmm.
see, now Baba has put this whole thing up to just test the Ramdasi, and Baba himself has instructed the pothi to be given to Shama, if I'm not mistaken. Right.
Yes.
Now, what this points to is something very important. See, anger can arise in anyone. Anger can arise even in the Ramdasi as a spontaneous reaction. But in the Ramdasi's case, he got involved to such a degree that he went on and he said, I'll break my head and I'll do this and I'll do that, and how dare you steal my pothi. So that involvement in the anger is the poison, which is exactly what Sai Baba says. And his words point to that. What are you doing? He's telling the Ramdas. You're going on and on about this. So it's a completely perfect example of what there's a disconnect, Nick, between daily living and what we think we are doing on the spiritual journey. And this was a most beautiful example. In fact, trust Baba to take someone who's immersed in the scripture and make an example out of him, because he's doing it for us. You see, these chapters are there because they speak to us. And so what he's showing is that you think you are above attachment and you're attached to a book that too which you know it by heart, a book which a fellow guru bandhu has taken, whose intention obviously would be to read that book. Not only that, but he is accusing Shama of stealing it from Baba and saying, no, Baba took it, you took it from Baba, and creating all these complexities. And so the Ramdasi is actually us, Nick. That is us. When we get involved in situations and we blame people and condemn people and go on and on and on, losing sight of what has actually happened. This is a lesson for all of us who are reading the Satcharita that, hey, just imagine, because that Ramdasi could be you, and how you let your blow your lid every now and then, thinking you are so self-righteous. So once again, I really marvel at this Satcharita, because it picks the perfect examples to show us where we are straying from the path.
Gautam, and this is so true. Plus, this particular Leela has so many dimensions to it. There is one more part where Baba, before the Ramdasi comes into the picture, or rather, before he returns, Baba explains the significance of the Sahasranam to Shama and the utter importance of each alphabet. He said, even if you take one of it every day, it will benefit you greatly. And as we all know, Baba's every word is impregnated with deep meaning. So, even the reading of the Pothis, as Baba has said in the earlier chapters, one has to contemplate these Leelas to take these jewels. It's only on the contemplation that we get these fine points.
Yes, most certainly. Because what tends to happen is we just read these as stories, and like a story a night before sleeping, and then put the book away. And that is why I reiterate. I perhaps do it to the point of boredom, but I reiterate that each story has to impact one's daily living and one's own relationship with the people in one's lives, whether it's family, friends, strangers, colleagues, whoever it may be.
Gautam, going to what Narasimha Swamiji had written, where he cited Baba's words that most people come to him with their ghada upside down. That means they are not receptive.
Yes.
Could you give some specific pointers in our daily living today that we could at least be with Baba, where we are with our palms, open to receive?
Nick, I mean, this story is the perfect example. Now, are we receptive to this story, or is our ghada upside down? If we read it as a story which happened to the Ramdasi, our ghada is upside down. Whereas if we realize Baba is actually talking to us, then our ghada is straight up and open. You see, it reminds me of this the story of the student who went to the Zen master, and after climbing a very high mountain, finally reached the cave. And the Zen master said that, let me give you some tea. And the student was so frustrated. He said, I've climbed this mountain. I want the truth. I've been searching for you for years. I have no time for tea. Don't waste my time. And the Zen master continued to pour and continued to pour till the tea started spilling over the cup and out onto the floor. And then the Zen master told the student, you are already so full of your own concepts, full of your own searching and seeking. You are just not open. And so, whatever I pour into you is going to pour out of the cup. It's going to pour out of you because that receptivity is not there. Here I am, you've taken me to be your master, and I'm offering you tea, and you are so impatient, so impertinent that you are very clear that it's a waste of your time. That means you know better. You see, so this ghada being upside down, I think we are all guilty of that crime. And, let's say, Nick, that we read this chapter, we would be guilty of the ghada being upside down if it's not implemented in our lives. So let's say tomorrow you again shout at someone, which is fine, it can happen, but we get involved in that shouting and make life hell for the other person and ourselves, then our ghada is upside down, you see.
Absolutely. So I think awareness would be the key, where we even observe our own conduct, our own reaction. So we reflect on our life, our day-to-day life, in conjunction with the Leelas we read, Baba's words.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other pointers that can help accelerate that process of absorption?
Nick, you see, I personally feel that anyone who's on this journey is in a way receptive, but we are blind to our faults, and the minute we realize we are accusing, blaming, or judging others, we need to stop, and we need to just pause a bit and say, hey, what exactly is going on? Why is this happening? So this self awareness needs to kick in during the day with whomever we come across. I would truly recommend this as a possible practice, that if you really want to live the teachings of Sai Baba, I mean, don't resort to just reading the Satcharita. Look at your relationships. At the end of your working day, think back on whom all you encountered, what you spoke to them about, were you critical, were you judgmental, and this process of reflection will take you very, very far.
Gautam, one other aspect that I found in this story, which I mentioned earlier, was on the emphasis Baba laid on discipline and the reading of the pothis as a sadhana. So Baba would generally hold up devotees if they swayed from, their what they had committed to, their particular sadhana and the reading, which he would do throughout the Satcharit. We see many instances of it.
Right.
So recently, there was a friend of mine who brought up a question when we were on a call, and she mentioned that she reads the Hanuman Chalisa and does Baba's Artis, but sometimes, she loses that momentum, or, something is not right. So I asked her, I said, see, it's very nice that you do it, but do you know the meaning of the Artis? There are the translations. Do you know the meaning of the Hanuman Chalisa? If you just take time once to read that, or a few times, and then you do this, you may have a very different zeal, because the same thing works as an affirmation. And to my surprise, a few weeks later, she came back, Gautam, and she mentioned that it made a tremendous difference in her sadhana.
Point of discipline is actually a very important one, because you used the word, in fact, committed.
Yes.
How committed are we to the practice? That is the key. I remember there was a very famous healer in the West in the 1950s and 60s called Joel Goldsmith, and he had, like, his appointment book was full. Hundreds of people would visit him for healings, and he used to say that, if you really want something and I tell you come at 3 o'clock, you should ask me, sir, is that AM or PM? Because you should be willing to come at any time. You should want it that badly, not as per your convenience, that okay, when it's convenient for me I'll do this, when it's convenient for me I'll do that, which is actually honestly our approach to these spiritual matters.
Gautam, this is a beautiful example you've shared, and it's no coincidence, because in this very chapter, chapter 27, there is the story of Baba's special devotee Megha. And he was a shining example of this particular virtue. I mean, Guru Bhakti, where if you read this chapter, I'm sure most of the devotees know about it. He was a shining example of this. No AM, PM, like, Baba during, on one particular day, he would walk miles both ways just to bring, the water, the sacred water, to give Baba a bath on that particular day. And he is one of the devotees that got the jewel, because when he left his body, Baba actually wept for him. So it's a beautiful example you shared, and I feel it's no coincidence it's in this chapter itself.
That's nice to know.
Gautam, I would also like if devotees can ask you a few questions. I had a few points which I've asked you, and if you would be happy to take a few questions today.
Sure, more than happy.
Wonderful. So anyone, if they would like to ask Gautam questions, you could press that raise your hand button, and I would be happy to, just get you on board to speak. Just a small request, if your questions can be concise and maybe framed within a line or two, it would help, because then we can take a few more questions in the session.
Hello, Sai Ram.
Yes, we can hear you.
Would I be able to ask you a question right now?
Yes, yes, certainly.
Okay, so I have this vague, a very simple doubt. So, when you are always devoted to Baba, and when you think that whatever he gives you will be the best one, but when you are always confused, what would be your next step? I go to Baba and do, like, I put up just chits, yes or no, and then whatever he gives me, I take it. So this is not only with me. I have seen with most of the Sai Baba devotees and most of my friends who does this. But when others, like, who does not know this procedure and stuff, they ask me, why do you want to do that? Why don't you ask for God to give us strength, whatever you choose for? And you could go with that. Why do you want to ask him if it is yes or a no and be confused again? So would you please guide me on this? Am I doing it right or wrong? Yeah.
Shanti, we all must do exactly that which we think and feel we should do. Yes, we can listen to others, we can factor in their opinions, that is fine. But for you, if this method works of chits, by all means. Because you see, there are some of us who are not able to take decisions easily. Others are able to take decisions easily. We are all made differently. This is not, a case where everyone should be able to, make decisions easily. Everyone should fall in line. No, we are all unique. I too have a very dear friend who's a Sai Baba devotee, and I'm familiar with what you say because he also puts chits when he's confused. And I will tell you something very interesting, which I spoke about in my Sunday talk. I had taken a German lady with her two daughters to a shop in Mumbai. They wanted to buy gifts to take back home. Now, the elder daughter was very clear. She ran from shelf to shelf. She put up whatever she wanted, she picked up, she put it in the shopping basket, and her stuff was done. The younger daughter could not decide. She would go to the shelf, she'd get confused, she'd put it into her basket and put it back on the shelf, and the younger daughter was getting frustrated. Now, their mother, seeing this, also thought I was getting frustrated because my time was going, and I told the mother, look, don't worry about me. The nature of your younger daughter, she's confused, so why don't you go and help her decide? So one daughter could take decisions, the other daughter could not. We are all made that way. Nobody is to blame for such things, and nobody should be told, oh, you better improve this, you better improve that. In such situations, if you need a tool, if you need an aid, in which case it is chits, and if it works for you, why not? There's no harm in it at all.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I hope you've got your answer.
Yes, I have got my answer. But yeah, now I have one more doubt. Can I go ahead or
Sure,
should I
sure.
just? Okay, cool. So now I am confused and I go to God, I go to Baba and put chits and I get S, and I'm still confused, and I won't be taking it as yes, and I would do the opposite way. So in that case, it would not be it would not make sense, right?
That is because then Prashanti actually is looking for a certain outcome which the chit is not complying with.
Exactly.
That
So
is what happens, you see. That is a very big problem.
yeah, I always get this thing. Yeah,
This
but
is the thing. This is the thing. I'll tell you about this friend of mine, Prashanti, since you raised it and it's come up. He was wanting to go to the UK with his son because to admit his son in college, and he kept getting no. He kept getting no in the chit, and he kept throwing the chits, and he kept getting no. And I told him, look, this has to stop because you're trying to force a yes. Now, Prashanti, this was in December 2019. And as we know, the pandemic happened in Feb 2020. And after that, I told him, look, there's a reason for everything. So please, why are you trying to force your will? And he kept saying, oh, I can't understand why Baba is saying no. It is ideal for my son. It is perfect. It's his future. It's his education. He kept rationalizing it, reasoning it out. And now we know why it was a no, you see. So your second question is actually, it shows how the ego can be really naughty because it's trying to push for an outcome which it is not getting. So you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, so true. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Tej, you could ask your question next.
Hello, Gautam ji.
Namaste.
Namaste. So this questions, like I have two questions. So basically, these are like general questions, and I really wanted to particularly ask Gautam ji about this. So I've been normally listening to Ramesh ji's teachings lately, and two of these questions popped up. One is time and space concept is not valid, as he says. There is no time and space, and I really want to understand that concept because I really can't apply it in general. And second question is, thy will be done. Like everything is done by God himself, and I am not the doer. So like the second question, basically, like the doer, like non-doer concept,
Right.
How can I strongly understand the concept? Like how can I be determined in that? Because if something bad happens, I really can't get on hold with that. I'll be like, how can that happen? And later I listen to this concept and I'll be like, okay, why would God want to, why would that happen to me? I hope I kept that question. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's take your second question first because it applies to everyone. You see, Tej, the thing is that whatever we decide to do, any human being, anyone who's listening to this right now, whatever they decide to do is based on two factors: their genetics and their conditioning. Their conditioning means the parents they were born to, the income group they were born in, the geographical area they were born in, the religion they were born into, and so on and so forth. The school they went to, their education, and all this shaped them, you see. So any decision we take is based on our genetics and our conditioning. Now, who created our conditioning? We didn't create it. The environment created it. God created it. It was beyond our control. So what we think is our decision deep down truly depends on factors which are not in our control, which God made. So when you say that I am not the doer of my actions, it means that there's so much vastness, so many factors come together and make me the person I am. And so therefore, I am truly not the doer of my actions. Now, more importantly, I may do what I like, but the results are never in my control, you see. Sometimes I get what I want and many times I don't get what I want. Then whose control are the results in? Once again, the answer is God. So we have to understand this in daily living, what this means. That supposing someone upsets you, okay, your sister, your brother, your friend, when you understand that this person is coming from their own blueprint, the way God has made them, you accept that they were meant to hurt you. It doesn't mean you become someone who people will walk over, but you accept that, okay, this person is acting based on their conditioning, their belief systems, which God created for them. I don't know what they went through in their childhood. So, you don't start finger pointing and hating and blaming and condemning people like you used to. This understanding is there. So when you put your point of view across to the other person, it is from a position of response and not reaction. That is how a teaching of non-doership can percolate into daily living. That is what happens. I'm just giving this brief example so everyone can understand how non-doership is quite important factor when you really truly accept that all the people in your life, especially the ones you don't like, the people who push your buttons, who trigger you, are acting out their script based on their destiny. You will be gentler towards them. You will be more compassionate. and you will still express your point of view, but there will be no venom, there will be no spite and hatred in your words. Your words will have a different vibration when you speak to them. Does that answer your question in some way, the second one?
Yes, totally. Yeah.
You see, and it's really beautiful. I'm glad you're exploring this, because these are what impact, these kind of concepts impact daily living and have the potential to transform your relationships with people. And
Yes,
coming to
definitely.
your first question about time and space, which frankly, besides getting theoretical knowledge, is irrelevant as far as applying it to daily living is concerned. But just take two things. I'll leave you with two simple examples. In deep sleep, the world does not exist for you. So, where's time and where's space in deep sleep? You see, the other way to look at it is imagination. Imagine anything, like supposing you now, right now, imagine a castle in the sky, right? Did that require time or space? It didn't. So, how real is time and space when stuff can still happen without these concepts? So, if you want to explore time and space deeper, we can do it perhaps in another way, not on this clubhouse. But my suggestion would be, rather than getting lost in those concepts, stick to whatever appeals to you, which you can apply in daily living.
Yes,
Okay? Okay.
Thanks, Tej. For the next questions, if we can try and keep it relevant to the topic discussed here, that would be helpful, or at least around Baba's teachings is a small request. Nandini, you can ask Gautam your question.
Thank you so much. Namaskar to everyone.
Namaste.
My question is that we all experience ebbs and flows in our lives, and it is something very normal. And even our spiritual life is not different from this. So, how do we maintain that kind of that same level of zeal and enthusiasm in our spiritual life? Because there are days when although we are connected to Baba, there are days when we do not feel praying with that much reverence or devotion. So, how to get rid of and how to maintain that kind of balance in our spiritual life?
But could you explain that further? Why are there those days when you feel that zeal is not there?
For me, I think it's very natural that there are days when you are so much engrossed in your daily life or your work, or there's something going on with you that you do not feel praying with that much devotion or reverence, or so as you do you should be supposed to do, you're supposed to do in the regular I mean, how it is supposed to go, you just don't feel like you're that connected on those very days. So how do we maintain that kind of enthusiasm in our spiritual life?
Yeah, actually, Nandini, I would put it across to you in a very different way. As the phrase goes, work is worship, right? Now, supposing you are engaged in work and you are following Baba's teachings, in the sense, at work, how are you with people? How are you with yourself? How dedicated are you to the work you are doing? Isn't that also being engaged with Baba's words and teachings? So it does not mean we have to remember Baba all the time and we have to start chanting and all. Whatever action we are performing in the day, if the awareness is there, if the Master's grace is upon us, and the people we encounter, the work we are doing, if we are giving it 100%, then that is the teaching in action, you see, which is as important as the remembrance of Baba. In fact, I would say it is even more important, because then we know the teaching has been delivered in daily living. So it's not necessary that, the zeal you're mentioning refers to a practice. That is one aspect. But what about if you started viewing your entire day, your day at work, whenever you're engaged, in light of Baba's teachings? I would say the zeal will be multiplied even more. So don't compartmentalize and segment it, that because see, if you are living the teaching, you're living it 24/7. You have to be that immersed in it, and that is the zeal. So it should not be separated from daily living.
Right. Thank you so much.
Now I'll give you one example quickly about I used this example of a government official who was very hard to deal with in the government office. Extremely hard, extremely rude, extremely obnoxious. Made life difficult for the people who wanted to meet him. But in the evening at the Sai Baba temple, at the puja time, he went about distributing prasad to everyone. Now this is what I call disconnected living, because your zeal is there to distribute prasad because you're Sai Baba Bhakt. But when it comes to following his teachings, if you are to respect the person in front of you, speak nicely, be courteous, all that went out of the window. So what kind of a zeal is this? That I am distributing prasad with zeal, but in my daily living, the people I encounter, I don't care a damn about them. So this is my point, you see.
Gautam, can I add something here?
Sure.
See, I was thinking of the role of sadhana in such a case, that if one follows the disciplines Baba has shown us, say the reading, the artis, meditation, like in chapter 18, Baba has categorically said how to do meditation on him, the Nam Smaran. Don't you feel that those, if done regularly, would also change one's state of mind and being? See, the mind will obviously create restlessness and tell you, oh, today is a bad day, I'm busy. One should probably take a holiday from sadhana. But if the discipline and yearning is there and you still do it, even if it's half-hearted, it over time is bound to at least weaken these patterns of the mind. Could you shed some light on that?
Definitely, and that's because of two reasons. One is that you see that vibration in the sadhana, whatever it be, reading, chanting, starts permeating the other points of the day. It's not just restricted to that half an hour, let's say, because that's a vibration which is set in motion and which is ongoing. And more importantly, if we have a fixed time every day for the sadhana, the body's biorhythm gets adjusted accordingly, and it will automatically happen. You see that at that time you are more receptive to the sadhana because the timing has been set. Like, I'll tell you a common example which happens in meditation. Supposing you meditate at a fixed hour every day, say 7 to 7:30 a.m. and one day you don't meditate because you have to travel for work or you have something else to do. Nick, the fact is that on that day when you are not meditating, at that time you will find your mind calming down automatically because it has been set, you see, the rhythm has been set. And so there's a tremendous benefit in discipline and in sadhana because it permeates your daily living. But it should not be a scattered discipline because then it becomes fragmented. If it is regular, if it is prioritized, it is bound to impact daily living, most certainly.
Wonderful, Gautam. Thank you. And Nandini, I hope that answered, your question and gave you some insights.
That really did answer my question very well. Thank you so much, Gautam.
Wonderful.
Great fun. I really enjoyed this clubhouse, Nick, and such beautiful questions because, everyone who asks a question is asking on behalf of all of us who are listening.
Yes.
And so I would encourage people to share their doubts, share their questions, or just share, even if there's no question, just share whatever you feel like, because we are all part of the same family, you see.
Yes, absolutely. Shall we take one more question before you go, Gautam?
Okay, if there is, sure.
Yes, so there's Kuldeep here. Kuldeep, you can ask your question. Yes.
Hey, thanks for allowing me. Gautam sir, I've seen your videos regards to Ramesh Balsekar, and those were really helpful to me in my times of seeking. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
This is the first time I'm on a portal related to Sai Baba. I have had no exposure to his teachings. My seeking mostly been with things like J. Krishnamurti and Ramesh Balsekar, and I'm really fascinated with and the discussion. So my question in this case would be in regards because Sai Baba is such a common figure, every Indian knows it. But as a child growing up, the only thing I used to hear that's in commonplace is about the miracles and how many stories are there.
Right.
I'd like to ask, do you think those are true? As reality has a space for those kind of things, or are they fables which grew with time and expounded and whatnot? So, how does one approach this seriously? If I want to really go into the teachings and also have an open mind towards all the stories that are around.
Sure. That's a nice question you asked. You see, Kuldeep, you'll agree with me that God is all pervading, all knowing, all powerful, all love, all action, all being. Because that is the definition of God. There's nothing excluded from God, right? Now, a representative of God, of that omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, when that representative comes along, in this case Shirdi Sai Baba, there's nothing that can be beyond his ambit, you see. Nothing can be beyond the ambit of a representation of the absolute. Now, these miracles which were performed, there is no doubt that they happened, because even masters like Ramana Maharshi sent their devotees to catalogue Baba's miracles and Baba's teachings. So let there be no doubt, because in the realm of consciousness, anything is possible. Absolutely, it is infinite consciousness. So how can anything not be possible? The point is, you are so right in saying that the focus was on miracles being catalogued, because at that time, Jnana Yoga was less prevalent. The Bhakti Bhav was there. People were prone to Bhakti, especially the simple people. So Baba used the miracles as examples because they would be set in people's minds, they would be recorded down. But if you read the Sat Charita, each chapter, you read the miracle, of course, but then you read the story behind the miracle. You see the words in that chapter and what is the knowledge with a capital K, which it is giving you. That is when your true journey with the Sat Charita begins, you see. So have no doubt about the veracity of the miracles, but do not get lost in them. That is what we do. We get so taken up by miracles that we want those same miracles in our lives, and we completely miss the point of the lesson. The point of why we are being told about that story is totally missed, because then, I, Kuldeep, received so many emails from Baba devotees that, Baba did a miracle in this one's life. In my life, I have no job, I have no girlfriend, I have no this, I'm waiting for a miracle. What kind of stuff is that? You see, that is what happens. We just keep waiting for miracles. That is truly a pitfall of this. So I'm glad you brought this up. But as I said, don't doubt the veracity of the miracles, but study it. What is the essence? What is being pointed at? What is under this miracle? What is behind it? What is above it? All this has to be looked at. It's a multi-dimensional teaching in that sense.
Thanks a lot, Gordon. That helped a lot.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
I've got to go now.
Yes, thank you very much for your time as always. And
my pleasure. I look forward to this interaction again.
Yes, by Baba's grace, we would love to have you on board again and, have more satsang followed by questions.
Yeah, and thanks to all the beautiful people who've been listening to this.
Wonderful, Gautam. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.